Oh, welcome to the show. Are you a principal or a headmaster? What's the proper term?
Well, there is no proper term, but we tend to go by principal these days.
Ah, okay, all right. Of course, they call them rectors down in the South Island. Did you know that?
Yes, well, it's the time difference there, right?
Yeah, well, the cultural difference. Scotland.
Yes,
Hey,
yes.
listen, yesterday is quite a day for you, really. I imagine you're still
There's
sort
a
of...
lot going on.
There's a lot going on. Do you sort of regret opening your email every morning?
Oh, no. I mean, fortunately for those of us who've been around a while, we tend to take a steady approach. Some people get a little bit animated and think everything has to be done tomorrow, but as I say, we know that just can't happen, so we progress wisely.
Okay. Well, a couple of issues came out yesterday. Obviously, we've just discussed in my introduction. The first one was from the Minister of Education, Erica Stanford, who obviously is a bit concerned about whether or not she's got the resources appropriately for the maths curriculum and to upskill that. We've talked about that before, particularly at primary school level, and found an extra $30 million from the Te Reo program. I don't know, I'd never heard of it, but that's not to say it certainly didn't exist or wasn't useful. The Te Ahu o Te Reo Māori initiative. Had you had any benefit or experience with that yourself, Kyle?
Not personally, no. We've engaged with a different program, but it's one of quite a good number actually of programs out there.
So to upskill all school teachers with the Māori language, is it?
Yeah, that's certainly the long-term goal, is to increase that capability amongst the existing workforce and also those coming into teaching.
Erica Stanford said that this particular initiative wasn't accredited. What does that mean? For us?
Yeah, in simple terms, NZQA, our qualifications authority, any course can apply to NZQA to be accredited, and the benefit of that is that you gain literally credits, points. So for things like a certificate in something or other, it would need to be NZQA accredited. NCEA is NCEA accredited, and that's that level system, so that by the time you get up into tertiary, you're sort of that level 7, level 8.
Right, so there was a suggestion, I guess, also of accountability for money spent too. Is it sort of it's basically a professionalism standard, is it?
It could be used as some form of credential, if you like, if it was accredited. So you for example, you might get a certificate in level 3 Te Reo. That would be the benefit of it. But at the end of the day, it's whether or not your capability in Te Reo is actually cutting the mustard, really. That's the bottom line. How you get there is somewhat irrelevant.
It's a very interesting case because Auckland's a unique province in terms of demographic makeup. You're the only province in New Zealand, the only one, in which Māori are not the second highest number of students in terms of ethnicity. In fact, they're not even the third. They're the fourth after European, Pākehā, Asian and Pacifica. So does it have as much relevance, a program like that, when you've got tons of cultures in comparison with other regions in New Zealand?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, all of this speaks to the simple fact that we are recognised as a bicultural nation, and we have a treaty to that effect. We also want to make sure that anyone who's part of New Zealand...
Are we bicultural or multicultural?
So we have a bicultural agreement, if you like, but we are multicultural societies. So it certainly presents some interesting questions and challenges that how do you foster this multicultural environment in a bicultural nation?
Yes, because they seem mutually contradictory to me, and certainly in terms of
at times, and that's where the challenging part comes from, for sure.
Yeah. And the other thing that is interesting, actually, and it's sort of not related to you, but it is, because you are the building block, particularly primary schools, of what happens later. But Māori teenagers, another education ministry analysis came out yesterday. I imagine you're aware of it because you're probably across all these sorts of things in your professional capacity. But I see Māori teenagers are less likely to get UE than European students, even after allowing for socioeconomic differences. And that won't surprise you at all. but it's just another emphasis on the fact that Māori struggle to learn in the system. You've got Pacific Islanders, and a large number of them, obviously, that more numerous than Māori students in Auckland and that region. Are Pacific Island students achieving at the same rate as Māori in your experience in Auckland, or slightly better, or slightly worse?
That's a big question. It really does vary. Even within the Pacific people's community, there's differences. There are groups that live in different parts of Auckland. There are different families who have had different experiences and different connections. But sadly, it would be fair to say that overall, they are one of the groups that struggle to make adequate progress across the system. And we see that year on year.
Yes, because
so they continue to be a challenging group.
Yeah, well, it's just that this is Pacific Islanders, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, because the interesting thing to me is you've got all these Asians coming into this country, and just, very quickly, you've got all these very Asians coming into the country, Kyle. English is a second language at home. God, it's probably a third language, to be honest with you. Their mum and dad can barely speak at all. You've met those parents probably yourself. You've got this kid coming to school, woof, off they go. That UE non-attainment rate, for example, yesterday showed that the non-attainment rate to get UE was 25% for Asian students, 51% for European students, 70% for Pacific students, 78% for Māori. Gee, those Asian students are killing it, aren't they?
And I think, to be fair, that sort of speaks to the culture, really, more than anything else. They largely, when they are coming to New Zealand, part of it is for the purposes of learning English. They sort of see that as the universal language of business, and being that a lot of them are business-minded, there is a significant emphasis on education. Education is highly valued in that culture, and it would be fair to say that the system that exists, that prevails in New Zealand, is probably more aligned with their cultural values and beliefs and backgrounds. We've seen over the years that this one-size-fits-all doesn't necessarily sit well with Pacifica and our Māori students. We've got pockets of success, raging success, but overall the system doesn't seem to be able to make it work consistently.
If you go back to the islands, though, for example, Tonga, Fiji, Samoa, Vanuatu, wherever, it's not exactly that within a cultural setting there in which they have education imparted to them, they're succeeding there either, Kyle.
Yeah. Well, again, it's cultural, right? It's what do those groups value? What's important? What it's driving them? The generational drivers, the generational experiences. So like, for example, we know that some families had quite negative experiences themselves of schooling, so it's little wonder that
there's plenty of European students have had that too, mate.
That is fair. That is very fair, yes.
Including me. All right. Listen, sorry, I digress though, because we were really talking about the two announcements that we made yesterday to do with the Associate Minister of Education, David Seymour. The first one was around truancy. He is worried because after quite a bit of effort's been made, certainly in an interventionist way and in a support way, those truancy stats have barely registered, I think, gone from sort of 47% normal attendance to 51%. And he's saying we still need to do a lot more there. Can I ask you, Kyle, as a principal and yourself, but also as somebody who is responsible for all the schools in Auckland from the position of being the president, have you got any solution to truancy in this country that has not been applied already by successive governments and ministries?
It's probably not so much the actual solutions themselves, so much as the level of resourcing for those solutions.